Welcome to the AEN Stories channel.
I was 45 when I learned that silence can be louder than any fight you've ever had. You don't really notice it at first. You tell yourself work is busy, kids are busy, the dog is shedding and the sink is dripping and nobody is sleeping like they should. You explain the quiet so you don't have to feel it. But it was there, building a tent in the middle of our house and inviting us to walk around it. My name is Robert. I manage a distribution center for a flooring company off I-83 and can tell the difference between oak and ash by the way the pallets complain. I married Linda when we were 27 because she was the kind of woman who made plans and lists and knew which direction to face when you were lost. We had our daughter, Ava, at 30. We bought a beige house in a neighborhood that pretends to be friendlier than it is. We joined a church we went to sometimes and a gym we went to once. Ordinary, not sad. Regular, not interesting. It takes a lot of work to be ordinary. Linda is 40 now. She works in HR at a company that makes medical devices and always has a neat sentence about people operations that makes my mouth itch. She's beautiful in that disciplined way that looks like a choice. She runs before sunrise. She makes dinner in bowls. She keeps our calendars like a general. She also got colder, inch by inch, in ways that didn't feel like weather. If I reached for her hand in the car, she'd pat instead of hold. If I asked about her day, she'd give me the itinerary, not the feelings. Cheryl is her younger sister by 3 years. They have the kind of sibling history most families do, inside jokes and old bruises and one story about a softball game that comes out at Thanksgiving whether it fits or not. Cheryl works at a dental practice and wears the kind of scrubs that look like she meant to go to a party but ended up at a root canal. She's always been the fun one, the one who lets Ava make slime at her kitchen table and then helps clean it up without making a speech. The gym stories started in January, because that's when those stories start. Linda told me she and Cheryl were going to a new women-only fitness studio on Tuesday and Thursday nights. It's classes, she said. You'd hate it. I didn't argue. I actually like classes because someone else tells you what to do and then counts down the last 10 seconds in a voice that makes you want to survive. But we've always been careful with our lanes. Tuesday and Thursday became hers. I picked up dinner or made something that looked like effort. Sometimes I'd text Cheryl a thumbs up when they said they were dying after spin. She'd send back a skull emoji and a joke about how their ears hurt from the music. 2 months of Tuesdays and Thursdays and our house learned new noises. The garage door at 8:20 p.m. The shower at 8:30, the blow dryer at 8:45, the heavy quiet at 9. The smell of citrus shampoo, the sound of my own mouth making small talk. We were good at logistics. Logistics will carry a marriage much farther than romance if you let them. They do not, however, take you the whole way. I noticed a new habit. Linda would come home from class lit up. Not the kind of lit that says she ran hard, but the kind that says something in her has been turned on. She smiled bigger and then smaller, like she caught herself. She texted more, screen tilted away from me at the couch angle couples learn without talking about it. I told myself not to be a brother-in-law to my own wife. If you start policing someone's screen, you've already lost something you can't get back by catching them. Ava is 14, the age where you are both a child and a lawyer. She's always been careful with the truth, the way some kids are careful with animals. She will say, "I don't like that," in a tone that sounds like kindness and also a verdict. She and Linda are close and not close in the volatile way of mothers and daughters who think they recognize themselves in mirrors and sometimes don't. I'm the softer landing. She tells me about teachers who assign group projects because they hate children and a girl in orchestra who weaponizes just kidding. We watch old sitcoms together and agree that none of these people would survive the internet. It was a Wednesday when the first real crack made a sound. Ava came into the kitchen after school, dropped her backpack, and asked me, "What time did Mom leave last night?" She tried to make it casual. She failed. I told her the time and asked why. She said, "No reason," and poured cereal in a way that suggested reason. I let it go because sometimes the worst thing a parent can do is be too interested. I have learned this. I do not always practice it. The next day, Linda texted me that she and Cheryl were doubling up, new instructor, extra class, don't wait up. I sent back, have fun. She sent back hearts and a bike emoji and something they teach you to do when you want to be plausible. I told myself to shut up. I did not tell myself to stop listening to the quiet. The night before Linda's mother's birthday, Ava came into my office being the corner of the dining room where we put a desk and a plant that refuses to die out of spite. She closed the door, which we never close. She sat in the chair and didn't touch her hair, which is how I knew this was not about a grade or a friend or a teacher. "Dad," she said, and then her eyes got wet in the way mine do when I'm angry and my body confuses it for sad. "Can I ask you something and you not get mad at me?" "I can try," I said. That's what honesty looks like with kids. You don't promise whether. "Do you think people are allowed to lie if it makes them feel less trapped?" she asked. I waited. I'm proud of this. I didn't say, "Where is this coming from?" which is adult for "I'm not ready." She took a breath that looked like a cliff. "I was at Aunt Cheryl's yesterday," she said. "I went to get my hoodie because I left it there after we made brownies, and I heard them in the kitchen. I didn't mean to hear. They didn't know I was there." She watched me. "Mom was asking Aunt Cheryl to tell you they were at the gym. Aunt Cheryl said she didn't want to lie anymore. Mom said she was helping. Aunt Cheryl said she was done. They didn't see me." She paused. "I didn't mean to hear, Dad." I nodded because all the circuits in my head had been ripped out and replaced with rain. "Thank you for telling me," I said. "I'm not mad at you." Her shoulders dropped. Teenagers live in braced positions. "I told Aunt Cheryl she has to tell you," she said, a small defiance I recognized as my own. "She said she would. She said she's telling Mom to tell you tonight. If Mom doesn't, she will." She blinked hard. I don't know what to do with my face. I laughed in that short, broken way grief uses to make a sound. "Me neither," I said. "You don't have to do anything with it. You can just have it." That night, Linda came home early, which is not a thing people do when they are proud of where they were. Ava went upstairs in that teenager way that communicates both surrender and surveillance. Linda stood in the kitchen like she'd walked into the wrong house. "We need to talk," she said, and I let her, because whatever was about to be said needed to be said in her voice first. She said the sentences. The gym cover story. A colleague named Thomas who understands me. The phrase emotional connection, which always makes me want to ask for an itemized list. She said she never meant for it to happen, which is a confession and a dodge. She said she felt dead inside, which is dramatic and maybe true. "Are you sleeping with him?" I asked, because you can rebuild if you don't name beams. She flinched. Silence is an answer. Then, yes. "Was Cheryl covering for you?" I asked. "She thought she was helping," Linda said quickly, and I heard the whole moral transaction in her tone. "She's done helping," I said. "She told you?" Linda asked, and for a second I saw the girl she had been, caught, not repentant, triangulating safety. "Ava heard," I said. "Cheryl told her she was going to tell me tonight. Ava asked her to. Cheryl is trying to do the right thing. Don't punish her for doing it late." Linda's face rearranged into the expression she wore when a barista spelled her name with a Y. "So everyone knows," she said softly, "a private calculus I didn't want to watch. Robert, I'm not happy. I didn't do this to hurt you." "But you did," I said. I didn't raise my voice. "You don't yell at people who are already holding a grenade." "We didn't decide anything." "You never decide anything the first night?" The next afternoon was her mother's 70th. A backyard party with folding chairs and coolers and potato salad with opinions. You don't cancel that for a confession. In a decent world, you would. We live in this one. If I could pick a soundtrack for that day, it would be the clink of ice and the pitch of laughter that isn't laughter. Everyone brought their versions of normal. Linda made her mother's favorite fruit tart and arranged strawberries into a heart that looked better on Instagram than it felt. Cheryl wore a dress with daisies and kept leaving the yard to breathe like she was counting to a number big enough to change the math. Ava helped hang up a banner that said 70 Fabulous, and I realized how cruel fonts can be. Families have their own courtroom architecture, the table where the aunts weigh in, the swing set where kids whisper and swear, the corner where uncles talk about yard equipment like it's a religion. Linda's mother held court at the head of the patio table, telling the same story about how Linda and Cheryl used to trade Halloween candy and how life is a circle. Linda's father hovered like men do when they want to give you permission to leave a conversation without making anyone's feelings too expensive. We made it into the second round of cake when Cheryl stood up so suddenly her chair tipped. She's always been the one to make a toast, to tell a joke, to turn the mood. She held a paper plate like a shield and put it down. "I have to say something," she said, and emotion moved under her voice like current. "I can't not. I'm sorry." "Cheryl," Linda said sharply, and the whole yard learned the kind of quiet you can only get outside. Cheryl didn't look at her sister. She looked at Ava, then at me, and then at the parents whose house has a smell you can identify even when they change detergents. "I've been lying," she said, simple as holy. "For Linda. And to you. About where she was. I told myself I was helping because that's what sisters do. But I wasn't helping. I was letting something rotten grow in the dark." She swallowed. "Ava heard us. She asked me to tell the truth. She's a kid. She shouldn't have to ask grown-ups to be brave." A murmur moved across the yard like weather. Someone's fork hit a plate, sharp. Linda stood, face flushed in the particular red you only get when you're angry and embarrassed, and both are more interested in survival than accuracy. "Cheryl, stop," she said through her teeth. "This isn't the place." "It's the only place left," Cheryl said, tears now, and not careful ones. "I can't keep telling Mom you're at the gym when you're not. I can't keep telling Ava to be nice to her father when we're all making him small so we can have a summer." "What is going on?" Linda's mother asked, voice too loud for the room that didn't exist. She looked at me, then at Linda, then back at me, because patriarchy makes the wrong person responsible. "Robert?" "Don't," Cheryl said, turning to her. "Ask your daughter." Linda wasn't ready for sunlight. "I've been seeing someone," she said, all the oxygen choosing violence. "It's not what you think." "It's not with your sister," Cheryl said, breathless even in truth. "It's with a colleague. I know because I lied for her. I can't anymore." The yard split. You could hear it. Chairs scraped and alliances revealed themselves like maps. One aunt shook her head with a mouth already in motion. An uncle stared at his bureau like it would tell him where to stand. Linda's mother put a hand to her chest in that way that makes the rest of the world liable. "You're humiliating me," she told Cheryl, as if this were a play with an audience she didn't approve. Ava stood very still, which is how children survive earthquakes. She looked at Linda. "You made me into a liar by accident," she said. "I hate it." Linda reached for her. Ava took a step back. It was a small step. It changed everything. Linda looked at me, pleading for a version of me I didn't have. I didn't perform. I didn't punish. I stood there and let the truth do its job. Linda's father, who usually speaks through chores, put a hand on the back of his wife's chair like he was anchoring her to the planet. He turned to Linda, his quiet was arithmetic, adding this to that and balancing. "This isn't about embarrassment," he said gently. "It's about what you did to your husband and your child and your sister. You brought Cheryl into your lie and now you're mad at the mirror." He looked at me with a kind of regret I don't ever want attached to my name. "I'm sorry, son." The room moved. A cousin said something about minding our own business. Another cousin said something about how men don't understand being lonely. A neighbor we all pretend isn't a gossip stood at the fence with a plate and pretended to be feeding the dog. Families are a collection of people describing the same earthquake in different words. I kept my voice low, because low is stronger than loud. "I don't want a jury," I said. "I want a plan." I looked at Linda. "Ava stays with me for now. We'll set a schedule. We'll be decent in front of her and honest behind her back. We'll tell the therapist the truth. We'll file if we have to. But the charade is over. And you," I said, turning to Cheryl and letting gratitude into my tone because that's the only way the world gets better, "did the right thing too late. But you did it." She nodded, sobbing now, the ugly, childlike kind. "I'm sorry, Robbie," she said, using the name from a decade ago when she first met me in a bar and told me not to break her sister because she would break me back. "I'm sorry, Ava." Linda's mother started to scold. Linda's father put his hand over hers and squeezed hard enough to end a story. Linda left first, a stripe of red down the driveway like a cartoon exit. Her mother followed in a storm of injury. A small faction went with them, people who believe loyalty means never pointing at fire. The rest stayed and pretended to clean up. Cleaning up is the liturgy we use when we don't know what to say. After, Cheryl found me by the trash cans. It's where you go in American backyards when you want to say something true without being the center of a tableau. "I'm going to give you space," she said. "You should hate me. I hate me. I just couldn't do it anymore." "I don't hate you," I said. "I wish you'd told me sooner. I wish I hadn't made it so easy to lie to me. I wish everything was different. But I don't hate the person who put the brakes on even if it took the whole hill to do it." She nodded, eyes swollen and still somehow bright. "Ava's a good kid," she said. "She is," I said. "She gets it from me," I added, and Cheryl laughed, a short, grateful sound. Ava rode home with me in the quiet. She stared out the window at lawns and flags and a man washing his car as if scrubbing would make him new. When we pulled into our driveway, she didn't get out right away. "Are you going to divorce?" she asked, and I heard all the things hiding inside the word. How much will this hurt? Who will I be? When will it stop feeling like falling? "I don't know," I said. "We're going to fix what can be fixed and throw out what can't be. You are not something that can be thrown out. You are the thing we fix around." She took my hand the way she did when she was 6 and crossing a parking lot. "Okay," she said. The weeks that followed were a mixture of paperwork and soup. People brought casseroles because that's how our town apologizes for watching. Linda moved in with her mother and called on a schedule we agreed on. She cried. I didn't tell her not to. She asked for forgiveness. I told her forgiveness was later, if at all. She saw a counselor. Ava saw a counselor. I saw a counselor who didn't make me talk about my father and still managed to make me talk about my father. Cheryl kept her distance without turning it into theater. She texted Ava memes and then texted me to ask if that was okay. Ava went to her apartment one Saturday afternoon to paint pottery because Grief wants to make a bowl and call it useful. When she came home, she said, Aunt Cheryl cried and didn't explain herself. It was weird. I liked it. We put the lopsided bowl on the counter and used it for loose change. It filled slowly, the way better decisions do. Some relatives chose sides. That's their right. Some of Linda's cousins haven't spoken to me since because they've decided that men who get cheated on must have deserved it. A few of my uncles are thrilled to have another story to tell about women. I ignore them with both hands. Linda's father calls me every Thursday and asks if I need anything. Sometimes I say yes. He comes over and fixes the screen door and doesn't try to talk about feelings, which is its own kindness. The decision about divorce came like a thermostat clicking. Not dramatic, not cinematic. Just a small sound that means the system has turned. We filed in summer. Ava cried a little and then asked if she could still decorate her room at both houses the same way. You can decorate however you want, I said. I'm throwing out the bowl plates. She laughed because she hates the bowl plates and I needed to win something. On moving day, Linda and I carried her boxes down the stairs like co-workers. She looked at me and said, I did love you, and I believed her and I didn't, because both were true at different times. We did not hug. We did not fight. We didn't make a scene smaller than it already was. Later, Cheryl showed up with sandwiches and garbage bags and the kind of apology that looks like labor. We didn't say the word forgiveness. We put lamps in the right rooms. Months later, I ran into Linda at the grocery store. She was buying lemons and spinach and a magazine that promises to make your life flatter. We stood there in the refrigeration aisle like two people who used to know each other in a different century. She asked how Ava was. I said good. I asked about her mother. She said better. We made the noises you make when everyone around you is deciding what kind of person you are. Then she surprised me. Thank you for not turning it into a bonfire, she said. You could have. It would have felt good. I still have matches, I said, and she smiled in the way that says we are both trying not to be the worst versions of ourselves. Ava played in a fall concert the night the first cold came. I sat in the gym on a metal chair, holding a program in the knowledge that I am, in fact, a person who claps too loudly. Linda sat on the other side of the aisle. Cheryl sat with me and didn't cry. When Ava played, She looked out at us the way teenagers do when they are both relieved and annoyed by their parents' presence. After, we took pictures. Cheryl put her arm around her sister and didn't pull away. Linda looked at me and said, "Thank you for being here," and I said, "Where else would I be?" and we meant it. The house is still quiet sometimes, but it's not the heavy kind. It's the kind where homework happens and the dog forgets which room he's in. Every now and then Ava will ask me a question with too much philosophy for a Tuesday: "Do you think people are one thing?" And I'll say, "No," and she'll say, "Me neither," and we'll eat cereal out of the lopsided bowl and listen to the fridge make the sound fridges make when they're trying to keep something from spoiling. I've stopped waiting for the old noise to come back. I've started noticing the new ones: the ping when Ava's text lands and she laughs from another room, the scratch of the dog's nails on the floor when he's dreaming, the click of the deadbolt at 10:04 p.m. When my daughter is home, the small sound a heart makes when it is both broken and beating. People ask if we're okay. I say yes, then no, then yes again. They ask about Cheryl. I say she's building something back. They ask about Linda. I say she's trying. They ask about me. I say I'm learning the difference between logistics and love. They ask about Ava. I say she's a good kid who told the truth when it cost her, and that's the kind of person you build a life around. On Sundays we eat pancakes and I burn the first one, because that's the law. We talk about the week and the weather and whether you can microwave syrup. You can. We text Grandma and Grandpa. Sometimes we text Aunt Cheryl. Sometimes Linda comes by to pick up a book and ends up staying for coffee. We don't talk about the gym anymore. We don't talk about the man with the tidy beard and the watch he can afford. We talk about Ava's schedule and the way the maple in the front yard is trying to be impressive this year. It's ordinary again in a way I don't take for granted. Ordinary is heavy lifting. Ordinary is beautiful. Ordinary is the sound of a spoon in a bowl and a girl laughing at a joke you didn't even make. And when the house is quiet late at night, it's not because we've run out of words. It's because we're resting. It's because we told the truth and it cost us, and we paid it, and we're here. Thank you for listening my story. If you want more raw, real, and gripping stories like this one, subscribe to the AEN Stories channel. Your support keeps these stories alive.